Alright, bedtime story. And then I can do mature themes. What is it? Is it like TW? Mature themes. Because the bottom text. Because the Brothers Grimm. So the bedtime story that I'll be reading today is from the Brothers Grimm collection. Some of them have they're like super old stories and they're a little bit fucked up. like I'll tell it to you straight, guys, they're a bit fucked up. But I read these as a child. This was my favorite book in primary school. This was my fairy tale collection that I grew up on. And I grew up just fine. Let me finish my ice block. Is there one that you had in mind? Only a little bit. I was prepared for generation ruining. Some of them are more fucked up than others. Some I've like, there's a couple that I've straight up like crossed out that I won't read. But I haven't been through all of them. I probably should have pre-read them. But it is what it is. The nightmare issues is certainly a mystery. Gee, I wonder why I have chronically bad nightmares. That's crazy. I don't know what could have possibly caused that. I'm shocked. Whatever the worst one you would read would be good. I don't remember them. I remember The Handless Maiden was one of my favorites growing up. But that could be really fucked up. I can't remember. Where is it? Wait, I looked away. No more bird. Hi, Saf. I'm more relaxed now, and 4180's redeemed bedtime story. So we're doing bedtime story today. So I gotta find the page with the. Read that one if you want. Whatever makes you happy, bro. Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna find it. Where is she? Where Handless Maiden? Where? Hello? I saw it last time. My eyes caught it last time and I remembered. Snow White and Rose Red is also, I think, was also one of my favorites. I don't remember them being so short though. Where? The 12 Hunters. Where is it? Hello? Dude, there's so many. The reason it's so hard to find them, there's like so many. The book is huge. I'll be honest. There's so many little short stories in here. Okay. Maybe it's not on that side of this. Oh, here it is. 145. Okay. 145. Okay. This one might be fucked up. I have a feeling that her hands get cut off. I don't know what would make me think that. Yeah, between this and all the murder mysteries I used to watch as a kid, it's an absolute shocker that I get such bad nightmares all the time. That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's what it's all about. Okay. Is there like a more... Like, the lo-fi is good, but I want like a slightly more like... Is there like an ambient? How do I change? Oh, here. Is there ambient? What's this? Oh yeah, this is better. All right. Put on the ambient noises. Did the title change? I did not change the title. Hang on. Just chatting. Okay, hopefully that's fixed now. Okay, all right. Okay. I hope you've got your snacks. I hope you've got your hot beverage, hot chockey. If you want it. I'm gonna put a little blankie over me. Get in the mood. Alright. Bedtime story time. Oh my god, the heart rate just keeps popping up. Okay. Alrighty. So, we're gonna read The Handless Maiden tonight, which, I don't remember it, but, getting snuggled, hell yeah, hell yeah. I remember when I was a kid, this was one of my favorite ones. Or at least it stands, the title of it stands out to me. I don't remember why. But I feel like I read this one a lot as a kid. So, all right. My family bought this for me for like my birthday one year, this book. When I was like 7. I should not have been reading this when I was 7. I'll be real with you guys. Okay, all right. Let's go. Bedtime story. Are you ready? Okay. So this story is called The Handless Maiden. A certain miller had fallen by degrees into great poverty, until he had nothing left but his mill and a large apple tree. One day, when he was going into the forest to cut wood, an old man, whom he had never seen before, stepped up to him and said, "Why do you trouble yourself with chopping wood? I will make you rich, if you will promise me what stands behind your mill." The miller thought to himself that it could be nothing but his apple tree, so he said yes, and concluded the bargain with the strange man. The other, however, laughed derisively, and said, "After 3 years I will come and fetch what belongs to me." And he went away. Back in your bubble wrapped bunny days? Exactly. They just bought me books so that I wouldn't go outside. As soon as the miller reached home, his wife came to him and said, "Tell me, husband, whence comes this sudden flow of gold into our house? All at once every chest and cupboard is filled, and yet no man has brought any in. I cannot tell how it has happened." The miller, in reply, told her, "It comes from a strange lord whom I met in the forest, who offered me great treasure, and I promised him in return what stands behind the mill, for we can very well spare the great apple tree." "Ah, my husband," explained the wife, "it is the evil spirit whom you have seen. He did not mean the apple tree, but our daughter, who was behind the mill sweeping the yard." This miller's daughter was a beautiful and pious maiden, and during all the 3 years lived in the fear of God without sin. He said, "Mind your own business," and cut off her hands. When the time was up, and the day came when the evil one was to fetch her, she washed herself quite clean and made a circle around herself with chalk. Quite early came the evil one, but he could not approach her. So in a rage he said to the miller, "Take away from her all water, that she may not be able to wash herself, else I have no power over her." So the miller did so, for he was afraid. The next morning came the evil one again, but she had wept upon her hands so that they were quite clean. Then he was baffled again, and in his anger said to the miller, "Cut off both her hands, or else I cannot now obtain her." The miller was horrified and said, "How can I cut off the hands of my own child?" But the evil one pressed him, saying, "If you do not, you are mine, and I will take you yourself away." At last the miller promised, and he went to the maiden and said, "My child, if I do not cut off both your hands, the evil one will carry me away, and in my terror I have promised him. Now help me in my trouble and forgive me for the wickedness I am about to do to you." She replied, "Dear father, do with me what you will, I am your daughter." Thereupon he laid down both her hands, and her father cut them off. For the 3rd time now the evil one came, but the maiden had let fall so many tears upon her arms that they were both quite clean. So he was now obliged to give her up, and after this lost all power over her. The miller now said to her, I have received so much good through you, my daughter, that I will care for you most dearly all your long life. But she answered, Here I cannot remain. I will wander forth into the world, where compassionate men will give me as much as I require. Okay. Then she had her arms bound behind her back, and at sunrise departed on her journey, and walked the whole day long till night fell. At that time she arrived at a royal garden, and by the light of the moon she saw a tree standing there, bearing most beautiful fruits, but she could not enter, for there was water all round. Huh? Yeah, indeed. like the, what was it? Here I cannot remain, I will wander forth into the world where compassionate men will give me as much as I require. Like, okay. Okay, bitch. Oh, okay. So she saw the tree. She could not enter, for there was water all round. Since, however, she had walked the whole day without tasting a morsel, she was tormented by hunger, and said to herself, Ah, would I were there that I might eat of the fruit, else shall I perish with hunger. So she kneeled and prayed to God, and all at once an angel came down, who made the passage through the water, so that the ground was dry for her to pass over. Then she went into the garden, and the angel with her. There she saw a tree full of beautiful pears, but they were all numbered. So she stepped up and ate one to appease her hunger, but no more. The garden perceived her do it, but because the angel stood by, he was afraid, and thought the maiden was a spirit, so he remained quiet and did not address her. What the fuck is this? Making out as if I cut off your hands or something, bro. They couldn't just give her hands back, right? As soon as she had eaten the pear, she was satisfied, and went and hid herself under the bushes. The next morning the king, to whom the garden belonged, came down, and counting the pears, found that one was missing, and he asked the gardener whither it was gone. The gardener replied, Last night a spirit came who had no hands, and ate the pear with her mouth. The king then asked, How did the spirit come through the water, and whither did it go after it had eaten the pear? The gardener answered, One clothed in snow-white garments came down from heaven and made a passage through the waters, so that the spirit walked through on dry land. And because it must have been an angel, I was afraid, and neither called out nor questioned it. And as soon as the spirit had finished the fruit, she returned as she came. The king said, If it be as you say, I will this night watch with you. As soon as it was dark, the king came into the garden, bringing with him a priest, who was to address the spirit, and all three sat down under the tree. Never getting that pear or hands back. I think I remember why I liked this one so much, because it's just so absurd. About midnight, the maiden crept out from under the bushes and again ate with her mouth a pear off the tree, whilst the angel clothed in white stood by her. Then the priest went towards her and said, Art thou come from God or from earth? Art thou a spirit of a human being? She replied, I am no spirit, but a poor maiden, deserted by all save God alone. The king said, If you are forsaken by all the world, yet will I not forsake you. And he took her with him to his royal palace, and because she was so beautiful and pious, he loved her with all his heart, and ordered silver hands to be made for her, and made her his bride. So dumb. What do other people eat with their pears, bro? Oh, jelly. Yeah, just pears and jelly. After a year had passed by, the king was obliged to go to war, so he commended the young queen to the care of his mother, and told her to write him word if she had a child born, and to pay her especial attention. Soon afterwards the queen bore a fine boy, so the old mother wrote a letter to her son, containing the joyful news. The messenger, however, rested on his way by a brook, and, being weary with his long journey, fell asleep. Then came the evil one, who had always been trying to do some evil to the queen, and changed the letter for another, wherein it was said that the queen had brought a changeling into the world. As soon as the king had read this letter, he was frightened and much troubled. Nevertheless, he wrote an answer to his mother, that she should take great care of the queen until his arrival. The messenger went back with this letter, but on the way rested at the very same spot and went to sleep. Then the evil one came a second time, and put another letter in his pocket, wherein it was said the queen and her child should be killed. When the old mother received this letter, she was struck with horror, and could not believe it, so she wrote another letter to the king, but she received no other answer, for the evil one again placed a false letter in the messenger's pocket, and in this last it said that she should preserve the tongue and eyes of the queen, for a sign that she had fulfilled the order. The old mother was sorely grieved to shed innocent blood, so she caused a calf to be fetched by night, and cut out its tongue and eyes. Then she said to the queen, I cannot let you be killed, as the king commands, but you must remain here no longer. Go forth with your child into the wide world, and never return here again. Oh, okay. Thus saying, she bound the child upon the young queen's back, and the poor wife went away weeping bitterly. Soon she entered a large wild forest, where she fell upon her knees and prayed, and the angel appeared and led her to a little cottage, and over the door was a shield inscribed with the words, Here may everyone live freely. Out of the house came a snow-white maiden. Oh, this is not the vibe, hang on. Out of the house came a snow-white maiden, who said, Welcome, Lady Queen, and led her in. Then she took the little child from the queen's back, and gave it some nourishment, and laid it on a beautifully covered bed. Presently the queen asked, How do you know that I am a queen? And the maiden answered, I am an angel sent to tend you and your child. And in this cottage she lived 7 years, and was well cared for. And through mercy to her, on account of her piety, her hands grew again as before. There you go, now she can eat pears with her hands again. Meanwhile, the king had come home again, and his first thought was to see his wife and child. Then his mother began to weep, and said, You wicked husband, why did you write to me that I should put to death 2 innocent souls? And showing him the 2 letters which the evil one had forged, she continued, I have done as you commanded. And she brought him the tokens, the 2 eyes and the tongue. Then the king began to weep so bitterly for his dear wife and son that the old mother pitied him and said, Be comforted, she lives yet. I caused a calf to be slain from whom I took these tokens, but the child I bound on your wife's back, and I bade them go forth into the wide world, and she promised never to return here, because you were so wrathful against her. Love pair on that one, of 2 hands. Sounds like she finally grew a pair. Oh my god. Oh. So far as heaven is blue, exclaimed the king, I will go, and neither will I eat nor drink until I have found again my dear wife and child, if they have not perished of hunger by this time. Bruh. It's so dramatic. Thereupon the king set out, and for 7 long years sought his wife in every stony cleft and rocky cave, but found her not. And he began to think she must have perished. And all this time he neither ate nor drank, but the heavens sustained him. At last he came into a large forest, and found there the little cottage whereon the shield was the words, Here may everyone live freely. Out of the house came the white maiden, and she took him by the hand, and leading him in said, Be welcome, great king, whence comest thou? He replied, For 7 long years I have sought everywhere for my wife and child, but I have not succeeded. Then the angel offered him meat and drink, but he refused both, and would only rest a little while. So he lay down to sleep, and covered his face with a napkin. Now went the angel into the chamber where sat the queen, with her son, whom she usually called Sorrowful. Bro. Lovely pair of that one. Want me to give you a hand?
"Come down with your child. Your husband is there." So she went to where he lay, and the napkin fell from his face. So the queen said, "Sorrowful, pick up the napkin and cover again your father's face." The child did as he was bid. And the king, who heard in his slumber what passed, let the napkin again fall off his face. At this the boy became impatient, and said, "Dear mother, how can I cover my father's face? Have I indeed a father on the earth? I have learnt the prayer, 'Our Father which art in heaven,' and you have told me my father was in heaven. How can I talk to this wild man? He is not my father." As the king heard this, he raised himself up and asked the queen who she was. The queen replied, "I am your wife, and this is your son, Sorrowful." But when he saw her human hands, he said, "My wife had silver hands." The queen said, "The heavens caused my hands to grow again." And the angel, going into the chamber, brought out the silver hands and showed them to him. Now he perceived that they were certainly his dear wife and child, and he kissed them gladly, saying, "A heavy stone is taken from my heart." And after eating a meal together with the angel, they went home to the king's mother. Their arrival caused great rejoicings everywhere, and the king and queen celebrated their marriage again, and ever afterwards lived happily ever after to the end of their lives. What do you know? It had a happy ending. I'm shocked. That's probably why I liked that one. Most of them don't have happy endings. Most of them are like, yeah, so she died. The end. Scammed. I'm just gonna read the one tonight. That was like way longer than all the others. Oh. He was running the kingdom for like 7 years. Grandmammy. That's who I assume. Good night, butterfly. Good night. I think I liked that one because it's just so fucking absurd. It's just so bizarre. Left mum in charge, 100%. That was jacked. I don't know what the hell I just heard, but I loved it. Right? That's why I like them, because they're just so bizarre. They do have, you can tell, I mean, it was written in, when was it written? It was written like, I mean, a lot of the themes are like really old. When were the Brothers Grimm stories written? 1812, which would be why they have such strong Catholic, I assume, or like Christian values written into them. Because they were just from another time, but yeah, you know, it is what it is. It was like a very pleasant nightmare feel. Yeah, it's bedtime stories. Bedtime stories. They cut off her hands and then they put silver hands on her. Why did they put silver hands on her? Like, you can't even use silver hands. Like, they're just decorative. It's just heavy. They're just dead weight. You don't need silver hands, guys. Hands dripped out hands. And then they're calling the child Sorrowful. Damn, that's a worse name than celebrity kids' names these days. My dad knew how to throw some hands. That's kind of fucked up that her own dad cut off her hands. Sorrowful. Her name was Sorrowful. Yeah. I mean, it had a happy ending, so that's pretty good. As far as those stories go, that was pretty good. Was into it as well. She was like, "Well, you're my dad. I trust you, I guess." And then she just cried on her arms instead. I do also I find it very amusing that like the evil spirit, it's just like he's just so like pissed off that she like managed to escape him, that he just spends his entire time being like scheming about how he can like what he can do to trick her, like scam her. Like he was like really upset about that. He's like, he could go get someone else, but nah. Do you trust me? Could have cut off your hands. Oh my god. Yeah, that was I probably would not have had that reaction. Like a trustful. They were into that stuff back then.
I mean, there was a lot of those sorts of references in like biblical stuff too. So I guess they were into it. I guess they liked that shit. So oh, yeah. They'll grow back, probably. They'll probably grow back. It's fine. Hers grew back. Mine'll grow back too. There's at least a 70% chance that they'll grow back within 7 years. They really liked the number 7 too, didn't they? I wonder what would have happened if the king had eaten the food when the angel presented it. It worked in the story, it'll work. Trust me. Trust. I've read it somewhere, therefore it's true. Even if I read it in like a book that is literally falling to pieces. This ambient music's well, let me change it back to lo-fi. Hang on. This is just okay. Shh. Let me change it back to lo-fi. Oh, not this one. Next one. Are you sure this book doesn't say grimoire? No, it doesn't say grimoire. It's got. Let me grab it. So it says the complete illustrated stories of the Brothers Grimm. Oh, that's right. It's got like illustrations in it. There's like line pictures, line sketches in it. Yeah, complete illustrated stories of the Brothers Grimm. It's like a really ugly brown color. So the back says, this delightful book. I don't know if delightful is the word that I would use. Good night, Lucky. Good night. I'm about to wrap up too. This delightful book contains almost 200 traditional stories, translated from the Great Fairy Tale Collection, which Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm compiled at the beginning of the last century. Well, now it's more than last century. Such well-loved favorites as The Frog Prince, Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella, Rapunzel, The Elves and the Shoemaker, Rumpelstiltskin, Snow White appear in their original versions. In these pages, alongside a wealth of less well-known stories like Smelly Mountain, King Thrushbeard, Clever Alice. These tales of adventure and enchantment are as humorous, exciting, and magical now as when this collection first appeared in print over 130 years ago. More than 220 charming line drawings and a clear, readable text make this a most attractive edition for one of the classics of children's literature. This is a children's book, guys. Apparently. This is now I know why they gave it to me as a child, because it literally says children's literature. There you go. Oh my god, that's amazing. Try not to have any nightmares. Oh my god. I can't believe that literally says, like, now I'm like, mature themes. Like, literally, like, one of the other ones talked about, like, self-harm. And I was like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that, guys. That's why I do, like, the trigger warning in the title. Because I'm like, I don't know what's going to come up. Like, it could be anything. And I don't know what it's going to be. There were a couple I did look up to make sure, and there were a couple I definitely ruled out. But yeah, it's certainly something, that's for sure. But I wish you all a good day, a good evening, or a good night, and I hope to see you again next time. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Good night. Good night. Goodbye. TY, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for being here.